In the vast, silent expanse of the night sky, a question haunts us. What if the story of God in the Tanakh is not a tale of divine omnipotence, but a narrative of a being grappling with its own limitations and learning to navigate the complexities of creation? This might seem blasphemous, but it is a perspective that reveals a deeper, more human side to the divine. The Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible, is more than a religious text. It is a profound exploration of the relationship between the Creator and the created, a journey from omnipotence to silence, from activity to passivity. At the start of the Tanakh, God is a bustling, creative force. In the opening verses of Genesis, God speaks the world into existence, shapes the earth, and fills it with life. He is a God of action, a God who is actively engaged in the world. The opening lines are a burst of energy and creativity, a moment of divine exuberance. Let there be light. God commands, and there is light. The creation of the world is a grand act, a display of power and purpose. But this initial confidence and activity are quickly tempered by the unexpected consequences of creation. The moment God creates humans in His image, the narrative takes a turn. The image of God, humans, are endowed with the ability to think, to choose, and to act. This is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it is a reflection of God's own creative power, a way for God to see Himself through the eyes of His creation. On the other hand, it introduces an element of unpredictability and challenge. God's initial confidence is soon replaced by a series of surprises and challenges. The Garden of Eden, a place of perfect harmony, becomes a site of rebellion. Adam and Eve, the first humans, disobey God's command and eat from the tree of knowledge, setting in motion a chain of events that will shape the rest of human history. This moment of disobedience is a pivotal point in the narrative. It reveals that God, despite His immense power, is not omniscient from the start. He does not fully understand the consequences of His creation, and He is forced to adapt and respond to the actions of His creatures. The God of the early Tanakh is a God who is learning, a God who is surprised by the choices of His creation. This is a God who is both powerful and vulnerable, a being who is as much a part of the unfolding story as the humans He has created. As the narrative progresses, God's role shifts from active creator to reactive deity. The stories of Noah, Abraham, and Moses show a God who is increasingly involved in the lives of His people, but also a God who is more cautious and measured in His actions. The flood, the covenant with Abraham, and the exodus from Egypt are all moments of divine intervention. But they are also moments of divine learning. God is adjusting His approach, trying to find a balance between His power and the free will of His creation. The shift from activity to passivity is most evident in the later books of the Tanakh, particularly in the books of the prophets. In these texts, God is often depicted as silent, as a background presence rather than an active participant. The prophets, like Isaiah and Jeremiah, speak of a God who is distant and often unresponsive to the pleas of His people. This silence is not a sign of weakness, but a reflection of a deeper understanding. God has come to realize that the world He has created is complex, and that his role is not to control every aspect of it, but to guide and support his people. The book of Job is a turning point in this narrative. Job, a righteous man, is tested by God and Satan. His suffering and questioning challenge the very nature of God's relationship with humanity. Job's cries of despair and his demand for an explanation force God to respond. In the climactic moment of the book, God speaks from a whirlwind, asserting his power and the limits of human understanding. But this response is not a reaffirmation of God's omnipotence. It is a recognition of the complexity of the world and the limits of divine intervention. God's silence in the face of Job's suffering is an acknowledgement that some questions may be beyond the scope of human comprehension. The silence of God in the later books of the Tanakh is not a sign of abandonment, but a sign of maturity. It is a recognition that the world is not a simple place, and that the relationship between God and humanity is not one of absolute control, but of mutual growth and understanding. The God of the Tanakh is a God who has learned to let go, to trust in the free will of his creation, and to find a new way of being present in the world. The Tanakh, in its entirety, is a story of a God who is both powerful and vulnerable, a being who is as much a part of the unfolding narrative as the humans he has created. It is a story that challenges the traditional notions of divine omnipotence and offers a more nuanced, more human understanding of the divine. The journey from activity to passivity, from confidence to silence, is a journey of growth and learning, a journey that reflects the complexities of the world and the relationships within it. In the end, the Tanakh is not a tragedy, but a divine comedy, a story that barely escapes the brink of despair and finds a way to continue, to find hope and meaning in the midst of suffering and uncertainty. The silence of God is not the end of the story, but the beginning of a new chapter, a chapter of mutual understanding and growth. The story of God in the Tanakh is a story of a being who is as much a part of the world as the humans he has created, a story that continues to resonate and challenge us today.